Welcome to the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast. Join us as we dive into the world of endurance sports, exploring everything from nutrition to training and how these elements shape your everyday life, both on and off the race course. Hosted by Coach Justin, certified run and triathlon coach and owner of Tabula Rasa Racing, along with Coach Katie, a registered dietitian specializing in sports nutrition and owner of Fuel to Run. We're here to share insights and real-world advice to help you thrive on your journey. Here at the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast is where your journey begins. Welcome, everyone, to the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast. I'm your host, Coach Justin. I'm here with Coach Katie, and this is episode 44. And today we are talking all things motivation as we creep into the time of year where the sun is rarely showing its face. And, there's limited hours of those vitamin D soaking times. How does one maintain motivation to keep going and keep training and making progress? Or, how do you make those adjustments if if you have a big race coming up like I do in December? I have learned that scheduling a very, very late season race is not only is it hard to train for, but it's hard to be motivated for as we creep into the holidays and the weather is starting to turn and it's getting colder and colder and darker. It's really hard to maintain that motivation and keep going, executing the plan. So today we're going to talk from a coach's perspective on how we work with athletes and maintaining motivation. Do coaches have a role in motivating their athletes? So let's get started. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping at the front end. So if you are enjoying the content that we're pushing out today, and we've come up with 44 episodes thus far. So this has definitely been a labor of love and something that we came together and said, we don't want sponsors. We don't want to be limited in what we can talk about and what we can say and voice our opinions. So we made a commitment to no sponsors and no money. So the one thing that you can do to support the podcast is wherever you're listening, whatever medium that you're listening through, whether that be Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, or on Buzzsprout, like through our website, or if you're listening and watching us on YouTube, leave a review, leave a comment, give us some feedback. Help others find us, encourage, pass along recommendations to your friends, other people that might be interested in getting into endurance sports or are seasoned athletes and they're looking for something new or just a different perspective on things. Pass along the episodes to your friends and leave us a review and leave us a comment. I did check on iTunes. We now have 3 reviews, 1 comment. We are, out of those 3 reviews, we are 5 stars for all 3 reviews. So we are running perfect. We're batting 100. And so I want to thank those that have submitted a comment and submitted a review. We really, really gratefully appreciate it. And for those of you that continue to tune in and listen to us talk, thank you again. We also have the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast Facebook group. And so if you go on Facebook and you look up the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast group, you'll answer one simple question and let you right on in. We're trying to build that community out, and it's going to be another place where we're going to eventually, as we build this group, push out additional content. So stuff like what I'm doing for Florida, that might be the realm where we start to push out that kind of stuff. So stay tuned, come in, join, be a member, learn and support each other. That would be fantastic. We are also coaches. We are taking on athletes on our rosters for 2026. So if you have a race in mind that you would like help with, preparation for, Katie focuses on runners, but does dietetics for all sports, regardless. I do multi-sport and also the single sport, so triathlon, running, swimming, cycling, endurance, hiking, run the gamut. But we are taking on athletes for 2026. So if you'd like some help or just want to try something new and trying something different approaches, or if you just don't have the time to create a plan anymore, and because it can be time consuming, and you can turn that over to us, and all you have to do is just wake up in the morning and execute. So check us out. If you want to reach out to Katie, you can go to fuel2run.com, and you can reach out to me, Coach Justin, at tabularasaracing.com. All of our contact information is on our sites, and so reach out. So Katie, Let's start our podcast episode here that we've got
Yeah,
some
let's get it
housekeeping
going.
out of the way. How are you doing?
I'm good today. I think I'm just tired. I was saying like when we first I slept good. I'm doing okay in that way, but I feel like this time of year I think my biggest problem is just being I'm tired all the time. I just want to hibernate, I think. I want to like cozy up with a blanket and just watch Netflix and not do much, which is so like not typical of me. Typically, I'm kind of ready to go. I want to go out and get my run in. I'm like good. And it happens every time this year, and this is kind of what we're talking about today, but every year this kind of happens to me and I kind of get worried. Like, is there something wrong? Like, are my hormones off? Is there something like with my iron levels? Like, why am I so sleepy and wanting to, and even like just wanting to go to bed early and wake up? And I have to like remind myself it's just that time of year. And I have to sort of try to embrace it a little bit. Like, maybe this is just my body trying to get me to relax a little bit and rest a little bit more. And because looming ahead of me because I have been starting to write up my training plan and think about my training plan for grandmas, which I know is months away. I like to be able to prep ahead of time. My training officially kind of starts in February. So really only have like 3 more months until that point, but I have to remind myself, like, it's gonna come back. The motivation will come back. It's not gone. I try to not totally give up on my training, but I do find this time of year I have to dig in a little more and find little things that motivate me to keep up with some running and some lifting and all of that. Otherwise, I could totally just give in, cuddle up by with a cozy hot beverage and read or watch TV. Not do anything, So I think a lot of people experience that, though. I feel like when people are listening, they're going to be like, yes, I do. That happens to me too.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm doing. I'm just trying to find that balance between being cozy and making baked goods and doing all the things this time of year and getting out and training and keeping up with my fitness at least until my build begins in kind of January, February for my marathon. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I am. How about you? I know you're in the middle still of your so you're in a
I'm
different state than I am. You're in a different place
I'm
than I am.
so in the middle of something. I don't know. The question becomes is like, would I sign up for another like December race, something this big? And I am questioning on whether I would do it again. At this stage, I'm usually done. I'm wrapping things up because there's a big half marathon here in Richmond, Virginia in November. And it's usually something that I'll participate in. I usually kind of like do the half. I usually like sign up for the half. But, after that, it's kind of like that's a wrap for the year, and then it's kind of like, oh, do I want to do like a surfing Santa kind of thing or like a, turkey trot or whatever. And those are kind of like fun and just, go out and just, no expectations, just go out and just do it as a way to convince myself that I can eat more at Thanksgiving or eat more at Christmas. So if you say,
Right.
well, I did a 5K today, so yeah, I'll have an extra helping of some turkey and some mashed potatoes. But this one, man, this is hard. This is really, really hard. It is a lot harder than I expected it to be, or that I thought it was going to be. Not just the training, because the training plan is freaking ambitious. I will say that now. I'm looking back at it, and when I wrote it up on paper, I was like, yeah, that doesn't seem to be that bad. I think I can execute that. Now that I'm kind of like finishing off week 11 of a 16-week plan, this is one of the hardest plans I've ever executed. And I've done
Yeah,
two
I mean, I've seen
Ironman.
your plan.
So
I've seen your
it's
plan. I'm
it
like,
is
oh, that seems it's ambitious. So
it's a hard
it is. I
one.
agree. It was ambitious, but
So I
sometimes
guess my main question that I have is like, okay, when is it that we need to make the distinction between lack of motivation and the body asking for rest?
mm,
Because sometimes when we reach this time of year, and maybe it's not even this time of year, it could be any time of the year. You could be in the middle of summertime and, you're really struggling. And each workout that you go in, there have been workouts that I've had to execute in this training plan where I absolutely did not want to do it. I would literally do anything else than do the workout that I had put on the plan. And it's usually those evening workouts where it's like, I did a morning session, I've eaten my food all day long, I've put in 8 hours of, good employee time, as a full-time employee somewhere. And so by that time, by like 6 or 6:30, my brain is cooked and, I'm not feeling all that great because, I have a sedentary job. So I sit in a chair most of the day. And so then is trying to like pull yourself out of the chair, pull the motivation out and like get on the bike or go and do the run. It's been excruciatingly hard
Yeah.
sometimes.
And not only that is
So
it's dark out, like, at that
it
point, at
is,
this
yeah. So it's
and
really hard.
that's
And like
just
the body
hard.
is saying, no, it's shutdown time, it's unwind time, and I'm asking it to rev back up again.
Alright.
So the
Yeah, it's so
question
hard.
that becomes is, are we lacking motivation? Or is it just our body's way of telling us that we're doing too much or that we need a break? Because if you cave in to that desire every single time and skip the workout, then I would argue that that's not necessarily a great habit to get into. Because one of the things that I talked about on one of the bonus casts in my weekly training summary is that there are going to be times during a race where you will question absolutely everything.
Like,
You will
why?
question every
Did I
life
sign up
choice
for
that
this?
you've ever made. You're like, this
This
is
is
so
hard. Why am I
stupid.
doing this?
It's hard. Why am I doing
Yeah.
this? Did I train too much? Did I train not enough? It's too hot out. It's too cold out. It's too windy out. It's too sunny out. So there's everything starts running through your mind. And so I argue that it's those really hard workouts that you have to dig deep in to find those motivations to do in order to reinforce the behavior of like this no quit mentality. I've gone this far. I've done this much. I can keep pushing. Because a lot of times it's the brain that gives in before the body does. And so I
And
guess,
it's hard too because, like, we've talked about it in the past where we've talked about that fatigue that kinda happens when you're trying to get that delicate balance of, like, overreaching,
yeah,
where you're trying to kind of just get to that point where you are in that almost state because you know when you're and then, like, when you're kinda fatigued and tired and you are sort of desiring and you're like, "Oh, this is getting hard," like, that might actually be kind of necessary in order to kinda get where you wanna go, but you don't wanna overdo it, so, you have it's hard sometimes to listen to your body and be like, "Is this too much? Like, am I going beyond this, like, sort
yeah,
of overreaching into, say, maybe more of, like, a very more fatigue that I need to be?" And then also, I know you're kind of going into maybe like a little bit of a deload week, so maybe that's why we kind of sometimes put those into the training plan is because you're supposed to kind of reach that point where you're like, "Oh, man, I don't know if I can do this. This is hard. Like, this sucks. I'm s not wanting to do my workouts because you're tired, and then sort of pulling back a little bit, because that's the hard part is I think like you're describing is this, you need to kinda do that in order to maybe, like, be able to get to the race and perform, and maybe even perform, get a PR or whatever you're trying to do, but it's hard because when is it pushing a little bit beyond to the point where it's too much, and in your case, are bumping against something else, which is just the natural like I said, this natural tendency
yeah,
this time of year to just be like, "It's dark outside." There must be, like, a circadian science behind this too, I'm sure there is, of, like, the less sunlight, maybe there's a biology to it as well, and so you're sort of maybe fighting against this naturally. You've got a few things going on, like, just the overreaching
yeah.
plus this natural, like, circadian biology telling you, like, "You need to rest," "It's time to, like, relax, and we need to sleep," and all these things. So, I don't know, that's my thought, is I think it's just I'm not saying I have an answer, I'm just saying I think that's probably what's
Yeah, it was just a question that I
universe.
just thought it's like, just something to think about. It's like, because I see a lot of posts on social media. They're just like, oh, how do you find the motivation to do this and do that? And it's always motivation, motivation, motivation. And so my question is like, I don't think I struggle with motivation. I'm very much an A-type personality, and I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the training process a lot more than I actually enjoy race day. So to me, I have a hard time relating to those individuals because I don't lack motivation. I don't feel like I lack motivation. And I think if you ask the people that know me the best, they would probably concur with that. So when I find myself in a situation like I'm in now, where I'm struggling a little bit, I start to questions like, well, maybe am I not as motivated as I think I am? Am I not as mentally strong as, you know, I would like to say that I am? Or is it that I've decided to push my body further than what I should push it? And so I think that I don't want to say like I perfectly timed, but these rollback weeks that I have in my training plan seem to be placed really, really well because I've got one coming up next week and it's so needed. And so
You're like, "I'm so
I'm
excited."
just like
You got a big you have a hard
I'm
workout today,
excited.
right? And then you
I
have what
do.
something
Yeah,
okay.
I have a pretty hard one today and then another tomorrow, but
And then
then
you do your okay.
next week is a deload week and I think it's needed. So I guess that I'll have to ask this question again when I get to the end of next week because if it's a true motivational thing, then I shouldn't feel different at the end of next week than what I feel now.
Right.
But if I feel more upbeat and I feel more energetic, then I say, okay, well, it's not a motivation thing. It was a rest thing. And you usually don't know that until it's hindsight. So one of the things that I found is that if we want to make the distinction between motivation and just carrying excess fatigue, what I tend to tell my athletes and what I tell myself is that let's just try the workout. Let's at least get, through the warm up and maybe one into the first or second interval if there's a structure to it and there's intervals in there. The first interval is always going to be your worst one. It's always going to suck. It's that second one that you're really kind of looking at and tuning in. It's like, okay, does the second interval feel better than the first interval? Because now my body is kind of like it's on the same page now. And so if you feel better, then it's like, okay, well, I feel better than I thought I was going to. I know I can execute this. But if you get into this and you've at least tried the workout and you've gone through the warm up, maybe the first two intervals, and you're just like, I don't have it. That second interval felt worse than the first one, and I'm sluggish and I'm just not feeling it. That's when I say, okay, let's rethink things and we can either abandon the structure of the workout and just go almost like zone 0 to zone 1 and just do some movement kind of thing, or just shut it down completely.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, I think, like,
but that's
sometimes too,
that's a
like,
hard
you do
thing.
that, and then if that happens, like, I think that it's kind of considering, like, not necessarily you're not giving up on your training plan, but sometimes it's like, can you let's take like a day or 2 off, like, and then jump, see if that helps, and then you can jump back into your plan. It's not like it's a little bit different than, say, like, you're just struggling because it's 6 p.m. and it's dark out and you don't wanna do the workout and giving up on that when maybe it's more of a motivation. If you're truly, like, fatigued and you do actually go out and you try a workout like you're saying and it's like, wow, by the second or third one interval or something, you're like, I'm really struggling, like, my heart rate's way higher than it should be, or something weird is happening, you're just not able to get it's just seems so much harder, or you're just literally, like, can't do the workout. I think at that point, then it's like, maybe this is a fatigue issue, or maybe you are getting sick. I think that's the bigger thing too this time of year is just there's been a few times I've gone out, like, the other day, I went out, I did a workout, and I didn't feel quite right during, and afterwards, I started getting, like, cold-like symptoms, like, it was weird. It only lasted a few days. It wasn't, like, a severe cold, but it's like, like, maybe my body was trying to tell me something, so you have all these other factors this time of year too, and so I think it's like, okay, either maybe you're overly fatigued or you are literally maybe just starting to get sick, so taking it back a notch, trying to listen to your body and not push through that workout and taking off a few days might be helpful to see, is it just that you needed a little more rest? And then you can hop right back into the training plan. It's not as though you're just giving up, especially if you don't have something like you do, like a deload week coming up where it's like, okay, I can maybe push through a few more days. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to have some days of way backed off training to allow that sort of compensation to happen. And hopefully you'll feel better. And I agree. I think after next week, or after a few days off, or for some people who maybe are in the middle of a training plan and don't have like a deload, or aren't putting those types of weeks in their training plan, to take some time and then kind of come back to it. And if it's truly like you're struggling, well, either maybe if you're really struggling, like you're not completing workouts, then maybe it was an overreaching sort of situation. But if it's truly like motivation, then you're getting back and you're like, "Oh, I feel better, but I just am still lacking this motivation to do it." But when you go do it, I think the thing is when you go do the workout and you feel good during the workout, that's probably more of a motivation
Yeah,
thing at that point,
I
right?
agree.
Because you're like, "Oh, I got out here," because that happens to me. I'm like, "I don't wanna do it. It's too early. It's too cold. It's windy." Whatever the excuse could be not to do it, and then I go out and do it anyway, and then I feel good. It's like, "Oh, I just It's just me. It's just me not motivating. It's just, whatever's causing me not to be motivated. So I think that's true too. That's kind of a test is just if you're able to go out and execute the workout once you finally get out there, you're probably just having a hard time with motivation.
So what are some things that you do when you're feeling like that, and it's just like it's windy, it's cold, it's dark, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to call them hacks because they're not hacks. What are some things that you do to uh, encourage yourself to execute when you don't want to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think this time of year, it's like if I'm going outside and it's gonna be crappy, I'm like, oh, it's windy or it's snowing. Like one time I kind of went out in a blizzard because I didn't have a treadmill. That was before I had a treadmill, but I was like, well, I'm gonna layer up, I'm gonna be warm. So I was putting like the adequate clothing on and I can always take things off. But I remember that particular day, it was like a blizzard and snowing, and I'm like, I'm gonna go out and do something because I can't be stuck inside all day because that'll drive me crazy. I think that part of the motivation for me is just knowing how I feel if I don't do the workout. Like, okay, like I know this is sucky, but I have to go out and do something because if I'm stuck inside all day and there's nothing to do because it's snowing and it's cold and crappy, I am gonna be, like, really irritated or and my anxiety is gonna be higher because, I can't be it's hard for me to just be even though I like to sort of do the hibernation thing, it's hard for me to not do anything or just veg out all day. I have to do some sort of movement. So it's, like, just reminding myself, like, "Okay, just go out and do something." Even if it's, like, down the road and back, just get out and do something and you'll feel better to get fresh air, even though the weather's really crappy. And I think that day I listened to, like, I put my headphones on and I listened to David Goggins,
Oh yeah,
and he was talking about going out with the I don't know what it was, and he was just doing something crazy, and I'm like, "Well, if he could do that, like, I could probably do this." I'm like in the
yeah,
I can do this running in a snowstorm thing, like, so, I don't know, I wouldn't discredit, like I think during the winter months, I listen to a lot more, like, motivational running books and things about, like, people doing hard things because it helps me motivate, so I would say that's one thing I utilize too, and then if it's the treadmill, like, I'm like, "Okay, I literally have to get on the treadmill today. It's too windy." I despise the wind. I can run out in the snow as long as it's not icy on the ground. I can run in the rain in pretty much any weather except for maybe below 5 degrees or below 0. I'll run at 2 degrees, but it's cold, but I will not run in the wind, and I do not like the wind, and so I'll get on the treadmill, and then I have to kinda motivate myself with videos and things like that. So I try not to let myself watch a ton of, like, YouTube videos, or there's certain things, like, I'll sort of save for those situations, and I'm like, "Oh, I have people I follow on YouTube who put out, like, running or endurance athlete related content, and I'll save this for when I'm on the treadmill, and then I'll put" so it's something that I kind of almost am like, "Okay, well, I have all these videos that I haven't watched, that I've subscribed to and I wanna watch, and it's perfect because 'cause they're, like, running related, so it motivates me. So I think, like, something like that, or if you have, like, a show, or something you can watch while you're on there, if you're somebody that can watch stuff while you're running, saving that, like, kind of making that only this is only something I can do while I'm on the
yeah,
treadmill, so it'll just
yeah.
"Oh, I wanna watch that show. I'm gonna get on the treadmill and run." Most of people aren't doing unless you're training for something, you're not doing generally a lot of really intense workouts. A lot of my workouts now are just running. I mean, I'm doing some speed work still because I do, I am doing, like, a turkey trot that I just wanna, like, keep up some of my speed, but just nothing is very long or very, very intense, so I'm by 30-second or 1-minute pickups at 5K pace are something I can still kind of do on the treadmill. It's not too hard because it's not like a really long intervals, but I think just, most of our runs aren't gonna be something that's gonna be very demanding, so I think it just helps to have something to watch because I get very bored, and I also, like, have to almost do, like, if I'm gonna be on the treadmill, like, a varying sort of pace situation. Like, this motivates me too, but I'll be like, "Okay, after 1 mile, I'm gonna get off and I'm gonna do 500 or 500 meters on my, rope machine. I'm gonna hop back on the treadmill and do another mile, and I'm gonna get off the treadmill, I'm gonna do 5 or 20 burpees or, burpee broad jumps or something, like, similar to, like, almost like the high rocks training.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna get on the treadmill and do, like, a mile or whatever it is the distance I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna so I break it up, And that's fine this time of year because I'm still getting in, and those things in between are still giving me a cardiovascular benefit. I'm still getting in a run, but I'm breaking it up, and mentally to me that is way easier. And there's actually some benefit if you break up your running to maybe do like an incline, like 6%, and then you get off and do some sort of strength related thing like step ups or lunges. That actually might have some benefit to like strength in the run as well, and sort of being a little bit more resilient maybe. So I think, yeah, that's a perfect time to do it. Why not break it up? Because it's, if you're like, I've got 8 miles and that's like a dredge on the treadmill, that's gonna be awful. Well, break it up into something a little bit more tangible, and then take a break and do something, and then get back on it and keep up the heart rate, but just don't um maybe don't take a break, but keep that heart rate going, but just break it into chunks. And I
Yeah.
think that helps. That's a way I do it this time of year sometimes, is like, okay, I'm gonna do, I guess you would call it like a compromised run. Uh, those are my tips. Just try to, and music, if you can motivate yourself with some sort of music. Because I do have, like, luckily I have a home gym. So I can go up there, I can like kind of do some things to warm up into it, maybe listen to music, listen to a podcast, like kind of get into it, and then get on the treadmill, and then kind of slowly work my way into it if I have the time. So sometimes my running is a little more like slow, or my workouts are a little more slow. I have to ease into them a little bit more, but I find once I get moving, and sometimes you have to trick your mind too. I feel like I said with that snowy day, I was like, I'm only going to do a couple miles, and if I'm done, if I can't do more, that's all I'm going to do. And then once I got going, I'm like, oh, it's actually kind of, I mean, there's a lot of snow on the ground and it's in my face, but, it's actually kind of pleasant now, you know? It's not too bad. I can keep going. I'm, like, kind of enjoying myself at this point. I'm not cold, and so I think I ended up doing, like, 7 miles outside. It was probably, like, a 10-minute, 11-minute pace because the snow was so thick, but I don't know, maybe there's some kind of benefit to that type of running. It was like running in the sand. You'd be surprised sometimes once you get in, how much more you can do. But I think just getting out there and almost psychologically telling yourself, "Okay, I'm only gonna do 10 minutes, or I'm only gonna do 2 miles, and if I don't feel like doing it, I'm gonna stop." But most of the time people are like, "Oh, I kind of feel good. I'm gonna keep going," right? So it's almost like those little mind tricks you have to play. And I still, as motivated as I am, because I'm like you, Justin, I still have to find little ways to motivate myself. Like, I still have to do some of these tricks in the wintertime, especially to get out the door, because I may not want to. And like, those long runs, and when it's like cold out, like, yeah, I will listen to a book audible. Like, I do listen to things sometimes. Like, people may say, oh, you need to go out and run and not listen to anything. But in the wintertime, that helps me motivate because I'm like kind of excited to listen to one of my books about running or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be that kind of book, but I'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna listen to this while I'm running." Usually I'm safe with it. Either it's on full blast because I live in the country, or I have one earbud and I'm not like putting this whole gig on and going for a run,
Yeah.
but I'm safe about it. But it's like that helps me because I'm like listening to a book, and because a lot of my runs this time of year, my longer runs are just kind of zone two, right? They're just kind of like, I'm going out, I'm just getting some time on feet, just trying to kind of keep up some of my cardiovascular fitness. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as you're listening and not totally oblivious to the rest of the world around you,
Right.
be safe. But those are some of my tips. I'm trying to think of others, but do you have anything that you want to, any tips? Like, what do you tell people if they ask you that question? How do I stay motivated?
I think that, I don't know, man. If I have to be completely honest, I don't know if the way that I motivate myself is completely healthy, but
Oh no. Okay.
I'll say, because I'll have an internal dialogue with myself. And, for instance, I'll have my trainer here in my office set up, and my bike is on the trainer, and I'm sitting here in front of the computer, and I'm just like, man, I got to get on the trainer. And I just finished my work day. I really don't want to do this. Even though I'm in the same room as the bike, I've got nowhere to go. I've got nothing to do but just put the bike shoes on and get on the bike. That's all it is. But I have to have a long conversation with myself about this. And I think I get to the point where it's just like, so this is the part that I don't know is healthy or not. But I'll say, you know what? You have no idea if this is going to be the one session that is going to give you a breakthrough. Now, whether that is a breakthrough in adaptation, or some kind of physical breakthrough where I'm able to sustain higher power than I thought I could, or a higher cadence, or if there's a mental breakthrough that I need to where if I come off the bike, it's like, you know what? I had every excuse to not get on that bike, but I got on it anyway. And, it was nothing special, but I can draw on that experience on race day when I'm struggling out there and I don't want to keep going or I want to slow down. And I tell myself, hey, there was that one trainer session that you absolutely did not want to do and you did it anyway. You found what was needed to execute it. You can find what's needed now and get this done. So I don't know if that's like a really healthy way of going about it, but I think it works for me because it's almost kind of like I don't want to say fear driven, but it's like I really have to kind of like have like this serious conversation with myself. And, I do listen to music. And so sometimes I'll make a change and say, I'm going to listen to this kind of music today, or another one where it's like, if I'm really struggling, maybe I'll kind of like break out some of those, because I was a big like little hair metal band kind of kid back in the 80s. That was where I grew up. And I had an awesome mullet and it was incredible. And so I may break out like some of those playlists where I'm listening to stuff that I listened to as a teenager, throw in some Guns N' Roses and some Poison and some Metallica and all those bands where there is a visual component to it, where I'm kind of like reliving some of my teenage years. And, it's kind of like reminiscent. And I kind of get on there. It's just like, oh, I remember, strapping on my Walkman and putting on my headphones and going out and cutting the grass on the riding mower. And I was listening to all my cool music. And I'm sitting there on the bike and I'm spinning, I'm listening to the same music, and kind of like these visual cues are coming back to me. These memories are coming back. And so sometimes that's kind of like a motivation that once I kind of start and I'm trying to find the motivation to keep going, that's one of the things that I sometimes do is I'll
Yeah.
do things that like trigger past memories.
Yeah, I think music can be very powerful.
Yeah.
When I put on the music, like, I do find it motivates me. It's just hard. I don't know why that isn't something I do more often, but, like, for me, it's same thing. Like, it depends on my mood. Techno sometimes, like a rave kind of music for whatever reason gets me. Oh, yeah, like, is that beat? And then I'm like it gets me kind of motivated. I don't or sometimes, yeah, like more heavy metal or, Seven Finger Death Punch or like some of those like Avenged Sevenfold, is
Yeah.
that right? Those types of things, like, that's not music. I don't really generally love that kinda angry music, but sometimes if I am sort of also frustrated or something, sometimes that angry music helps me kind of motivate. So it just or it'll be like pop or something can sometimes just get me in that same situation where I'm remembering, like, Bare Naked Ladies was one that we used to listen to on our way for cross country camp. We would go to Acadia, Maine to Bar Harbor every year for cross country, and we would listen to these Madonna, like, some of the Madonna stuff, but also, like, Bare Naked Ladies, Dave Matthews Band. There's just certain ones that we would have on certain songs, and you're right, I'll hear it and it'll take me instantly back to, like,
Yeah.
cross country camp and running with my friend, you know what I mean? And so I think that kind of stuff can be very motivating, so I say like most people I think have experienced that sort of same thing. It's like a nostalgia, but also like these memories just come back that maybe you didn't even haven't tapped into in a while and you're like, oh, that and if it's something that gets you to make you happy or kind of brings you back to a good place or in my case, like cross country camp, like kind of reminding me of where all this running sort of started. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll get it going. But I think music is very powerful motivation tool for sure. I think sometimes though, it's hard sometimes when when we do maybe need to take it easy to listen if we're like kind of constantly thinking that way because it's like, oh, maybe this is the one workout that could also break you and make, so there's always that too. So that's where I
Yeah.
think it's important to kind of like it's
That's why I
hard.
said it may not be a completely healthy approach
Yeah.
because yeah, sometimes maybe I do kind of use that and I would have been better off just taking the day
Yeah.
and skipping it. But I mean, I use training peaks to manage my plan and manage my athlete's plan. And there's a color coding system that's in there. So it's like if you reach a particular threshold of completion, it's like,
Mhm.
I think if it's like 60% or less, colors it, like
Yeah, the color code.
yellow, and then somewhere, and then it goes orange, and then green, and then red if you skip it. But even if you go over the plan duration, it starts to downgrade the
Color.
color. And so if you've listened to a couple of the other episodes, the bonus casts, I say, hey, I had an all green week this week. That's
I
what that's
change my
referring
training
to.
plan when I don't complete a workout. I just take it out. So it doesn't do
Oh, do
that
you really? Oh,
sometimes.
okay. Yeah. I
Sometimes,
don't.
not always. Sometimes like the strength, I'll do it on a different day and it won't like give me credit and I'm like, I know I did it. It's just not turning in green. So I'm just gonna let that one
Yeah.
go. But sometimes I'll change it or take it out. Or I'll do like one day, what did I do? I did like a 2 mile little run with my dog in the morning and then I had a workout in there and it said that was my workout, even though I didn't say yes in my Garmin to that. I was like, okay, I'm going to skip it for now. I'm going to do it in a little bit, but I'm going to take my dog out. I'm just going to do a little down the road. And then I was going to do the workout, later in the day or in the morning. And then it gave the Training Peaks put that in as the workout. So it gave me like a red or yellow for that. And I'm like, well, or yellow, because I did only do 2 miles out of like the 8 mile run I was supposed to do. And then I did it later. So I think Training Peaks is you can't always take it. I do that. I know it's like some people might be like cheating, but if I like had to switch days or I had to like literally was like today is just not going to work out for a workout and I'll move it to another day to do it or switch it to an easy day in Training Peaks. So it doesn't do that to me.
Yeah, I
It's
will
okay to
move
do
things
that.
around if I know it's like, oh, maybe I was a little too ambitious on my time abilities on this day, but I can do it here, and then I'll move. Like it's usually like a core workout that I
Yeah.
skip. It's like my little 20-minute core session. I was like, I'll just move it over to here, and so I'll move it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I
Because
don't
that's
usually
like
remove.
important.
But I
Big
know I
workouts.
know I know myself well enough to know the mental side of seeing something that's not green on
Right.
there, or
Interesting.
seeing a missed session. Not, I don't necessarily just need to see like the visual representation of that quote unquote failure, because that's the way that my brain interprets it. And I was looking at that, and I know it's not healthy, but
You're
I'll
very
look
hard
at
on
it and I'll say,
yourself. Yeah.
I am. It's like, oh, well, you failed to do that, and so that's a failure. And it's just the way that my brain works. And then I'll feel like something's missing. It's like if you're going through your day and you're just like, man, I feel like I've forgotten something.
Hmm.
You're just racking your brain and you feel like there was something that you were supposed to do, but you can't remember what it was. And so it just feels like something is just incomplete. That's the way that I feel if I don't do something every day. And
Right.
so
Okay.
I have a really hard time like taking complete rest days because I feel incomplete. I feel like there's something that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. And it actually causes me more stress and more, I don't want to call it anxiety, but it's just mental unrest.
I
You
wonder if
know,
on those days you could put in Training Peaks like a walk or something. You know what I mean? Like sometimes maybe you
yeah,
just need to do something and that's okay. I mean, obviously taking if you have to, like you're sick or something, or you're just like the day after a race and you can't hardly move. My friend Bob always does 1 mile after a marathon, and I tried it that one day, and I was, like, under the Tucson, which is probably not a good one to try it after because I was so sick, but I was like, I don't know if that was helpful. I think that made it worse, you know? But I'm like,
yeah,
if you have to put in a walk or something, in there, like a 20-minute walk just to sort of have it, I think some people just like to have completing things and checking things off, and, I
yeah.
mean, maybe there's something more deep and psychological there.
It's definitely hard. I'm definitely hard on myself, and the mental part of it's like, oh well, I didn't do the workout that I planned to do, or I didn't do it as I planned to do it. And so I've come a long way when it comes to like working with others and the athletes that I work with.
I think, um that's hard because if you have those expectations for yourself, I think then it's hard to, like, not be like, "Oh, I'm looking at Training Peaks and there's a couple of red days." Like, I think it's important for us coaches to reach out and be like, "What's happening on those days? Like, what happened?" And usually it's like a work-related thing or something like that. And then it's like, "Okay, well, this is why you need to put in your availability because if I'm putting in the workouts and you can't do it that day, like, then it's not gonna work. So you need to let me know when you can't do them. I know some things come up last minute." But yeah, I think that it's a conversation, but it's trying not to be like it's that balance of like being gentle
Yeah.
And then that's just something I struggle with even in my nutrition practice because I tend to be like a people pleaser. I don't like to ruffle feathers too much. And I think sometimes as a coach, you almost need to be like that balance of like, okay, understanding and empathy, which I have a lot of. Uh, but sometimes also like that, like, little bit of a little tough on the athletes, like kind of being like, okay, this is happening. This happened once. That's fine. We get it. Like work happens, your kid gets sick, like those things happen. And sometimes, I know for me, when Theo's sick, like I have to reevaluate my day. I'm probably not going to get the workout in that I wanted to get in. And that bothers me. It does, but I have to understand it. And I have to like reevaluate my week and see if I can move some things around or try to do it later in the day or whatever. But, I get it. It happens to me too. But if it's like happening every week, like there's 2 or 3 workouts that are being missed or not completed, or things aren't, it's only 20, put an hour long workout and only half of it's completed and it's showing in yellow and training peaks or something like that, then I think that's a bit more of a conversation of like what's happening here. Is it motivation? Is it time? Did you commit to more than you can chew, like so to speak, or more than you can take on? Is it something else? Like what's going on? And then having those conversations with the athlete. And if it's motivation, I think that's a tricky one because as a coach, like my plan, and I know we talked about this a little bit off air, is just to try to make the training plan interesting and, and varied and rest, having that good balance of like harder workouts and rest days and some strength in there, but having it so it's not a one day, too overwhelming, and knowing their schedule and what they want to accomplish and not putting on too much on their plate. And that's all sort of my job as a coach, is to try to figure out a way to make it work for their goals and to make it interesting and have some cool workouts in there that are fun or at least like, okay, different. So it's not the same every week. That's my job. But my job as a coach isn't necessarily to be, I mean, I think cheerleader a little bit. Like when somebody does have a good workout, I'll
Yeah.
say it. I'll comment like, hey, that's great. This workout went awesome. Or like this, I'm so glad you felt good. Like sometimes they'll comment, like I'll always try to kind of comment back. Can be like a little bit of a cheerleader, but I can't be next to them most of the time. A lot of my athletes are remote, or they like, I don't have the time and most people aren't paying me enough to go work out with them every time and do the workout with them and cheer them on as they go, or come wake them up in the
Yeah.
morning and make them breakfast. And that would really be a big commitment. I can't do that for people. And so there has to be some level of motivation coming from them. I cannot go, even my nutrition clients, like I can give people plans and help them overcome barriers in their lives of things that are maybe getting in their way, and talk through that with them and help them come with strategies and all of those things. But ultimately, it's up to them to do it, to execute.
Yeah.
I cannot be there making them their meals. Like, I mean, I'm sure like maybe if a celebrity wanted, they would have hundreds of thousands of dollars spent or something, maybe. I don't think most people have that kind of money to have like their own personal coach, their own nutrition coach all the time with them. So most people have to find that motivation somewhere. And if they lack it, or if their motivations are somewhat superficial, like, oh, I just want to kind of look better in my jeans, or whatever it is, like there isn't a deeper motivation. Well, that sort of motivation isn't going to get you up out of bed at 5 a.m. on a cold day to go run outside or something. You're not,
Yeah.
you need a little bit of something deeper. So, and I can't provide that. So I don't know what your thoughts are like on that whole
No,
coaching role.
yeah, I've had that same mindset for years that, it's not my job as your coach to motivate you and to get you and convince you that you need to do this workout or make you do it. That's on you. My job as your coach is to provide you a structured approach that balances stress and rest in order to set you up to accomplish the goal that you set out to accomplish. That doesn't necessarily mean as well that I'm going to give you these different workouts every single week, and everything is going to be different and engaging and exciting, because honestly 80% of the training is just normal, just doing it to do it, because that's where the growth comes from. That's the accumulation. Really, I mean, it's like in my plan, I may have the same workouts in there for 2 to 3 weeks. And then I see how I progress over that time frame, keeping everything constant. And then it's like, okay, well, I see the adaptation that I was looking for, whether that means that I'm able to run at a faster pace, or I'm able to feel better while running at a faster pace or pushing a higher power. Then I was like, boom, that's the adaptation that I want. Now let's now let's change it up a little bit and see if we can generate some different results. But those 3 weeks require a lot of motivation from me as an athlete to say, man, I did this same workout last week and I
Right.
did the
Yeah.
same workout the week before. So it's on me as the athlete to say, this is what needs to be done to get me where I want to go. It's always not going to be engaging. It's not always going to be fun. And I'm not always going to be quote unquote happy, but you know, it's a process. And that
That's
process
true. Yeah.
doesn't process is outside of emotion. And everything that we've been talking about is like, engaged and happy and, excited. Those are all emotions that we talk about. But sometimes we have to approach the training outside of this emotional realm and say, okay, sometimes you're just going to have to dig deep and just suck this up and just do it. And that's what I tell myself. I don't just tell my athletes that. I have to tell myself that. It's like, I've got I've got this big gear session. Yeah. Oh, that I
Like the
don't want to do.
progressive running, yeah, like the
Yes,
progressive runs or like the long in the, marathon, I'm looking ahead, I'm trying to change up some of my marathon training, and I know, like, a bigger piece of some of my long runs are gonna have to be running some of those at close to long stretches at closer to marathon pace. I'm not gonna break it up into 2 miles and then a break and then 2 miles, like, I'm gonna have to do some longer stretches or even builds where it's, like, 3 miles a ni 90%, whatever, building up to, like, almost 100% marathon pace by the end, and that's hard, and
it
that
is.
so isn't something I love to do. I love to just go out and grind in zone 2, and that's what I've done in the past, and it's got me I did a little bit more marathon pace stuff for the last 2, but I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to do more of that type of stuff and some other different things that I don't like. I'm gonna have to embrace some of those things that maybe I didn't wanna put in my training plan as much last time because I don't love it, but that's what's gonna get me better at the
Yeah.
marathon, and if I want my goal, like, I'm going to have to do those types of things. So as a coach, like, you that's the thing, and I'll tell my athletes that, like, I know these aren't fun, and they'll be like, "I don't really like that workout," or "It's hard." It's like, I know that, I get it, but this is what's gonna get you better, so it can't always be putting in those fun, like, sexy speed, like, I don't know, whatever it is that you enjoy, because I do enjoy kind of sometimes the speedier, faster, like, track workouts, but I also have to kind of enjoy the grind of grinding it out a little bit more at closer to marathon pace, and as I get closer to the marathon especially, and it's like, "Okay, I don't like those, but but I've gotta do them. This is the sometimes to get better at something, like you're saying, you do the same workout a few times because you're trying to see if you can increase speed slightly or to get more efficient at that pace or whatever it is, like, you have to sometimes do that, and you can't always have new and different workouts all of the time, and that's part of training, and I think when you embrace the process of it, I know that's not my strength, and I'm not good at those types of things. That's probably where I need to be sitting in more
Yeah.
often then, you know?
Yep.
And maybe I can learn to embrace it, and maybe by the end of this build, I'll be like, "This I did it, I was able to do it," and there's a lot of accomplishment in that, and then, especially if you get your goal and you're like, "Okay, yeah, like, that was the breakthrough I needed." But I think that's important to remember as an athlete and when I'm coaching is trying to remind my athletes of that. Like, yeah, there's gonna be some workouts that aren't going to be super fun, and you're gonna just be out there grinding, and it's hard. And if you don't wanna do it, I don't know what other thing I can put in there to replace this because this is, like, the goal of this workout, and I think sometimes when we do grind through those things, though, we do feel more accomplished at the end, and it helps us mentally too, preparing for the race when you're like when we said in the beginning, like, we are gonna be in those places, like, "Why are we doing this?" Like, I think that sometimes when you have those moments during workouts, you kind of then are prepared because mentally you're in the middle of a 20-mile run and you're trying to hit goal marathon pace for a certain point of that, part of that run, or you're building up to that and you're just slowly grinding harder and harder and you're mentally just this is sucks, but then that prepares you for the race when you get to that point. You'd be like, "Oh, I've been here before and I got through it." Not all the workouts are gonna be fun. So that
Yeah,
motivation's gonna
no,
have to
not at
come
all.
somewhere and it's not gonna come from me.
I think there's this human desire for comfort and to not be stretched. And sometimes that can definitely feed into the whole motivation side, because if you're, you know, I'm in a plan right now that I built. So I did this to myself and I'm super uncomfortable, but that feeds into sometimes the motivational issues that I might be feeling right now. It's just like, I may have, like, there's these, now that I've kind of transitioned into kind of like my peak, more specificity within the training plan. Racing in Florida is going to be a lot different than racing in someplace that's really, really hilly. And I love, love, love big gear work on the bike. I love the low cadence stuff. I love to just sit there and just grind it out in heavy gear. But that's not going to be as productive for me for Florida, because I mean, I'm developing a skill that's not necessarily going to be completely utilized. I need stuff that's going to be like higher cadence work, which I really despise and don't like. And so, but that's where I'm at in my training plan. And it's hard to look at that bike knowing that I've got a higher cadence session that I have to do, and I really don't want to do it. But, I know that it's what I need to do. And so sometimes you can develop a workout where, I've got this one bike workout where I do my high cadence build. So it's like, I call them ramp ups. And so I'll go like zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and I'm ramping up the power. And then, there's like a 1 minute kind of like reset. And then I go into some hill repeats. And so it's like 5 minutes of zone 4 low cadence work. So I get that kind of like mental break that I'm looking for. And then I go right back into the progressive cadence build. And so,
Mhm.
there are ways that we can build these workouts to where we know it's not something that we want to do, but we know that it's necessary. Well, what can I do to kind of like provide a little bit of a mental break within the session itself that doesn't make it necessarily feel so hard mentally?
Yeah. I think for me, it's like finding for some of those workouts, it's gonna be finding a location that's maybe slightly more flat and, maybe mimics a little bit the marathon, and so I can maintain those paces and feel better about it. If it was a hilly course, I would definitely then maybe consider staying on some of the hills, but or somebody drives me. Sometimes I'll have my husband like drive me out places and then I run back. And if you have the ability to do that, but oh, okay, this workout sucks, but I'm going to try to make it interesting by changing the setting or doing something a little bit
Yeah.
different where I have to run home. They're like, now I don't have a chance to like cut out early because to get home,
Yeah.
like sometimes during those types of workouts are important. It's not to say you have to go out and grind and be miserable. What can we find some ways to make it, like you said, like break it up so there's something in the middle that, you can do a little bit of something different and then it breaks it up a little bit so it's not so monotonous and you're still getting the work done, or is there something you can do to motivate you out that's like outside of that just to kind of put something fresh in there, like a new location or something different. I don't know. Sometimes I even have to motivate myself by, okay, I'm gonna do my workout and I'm gonna go to the bakery. I don't generally think we should like motivate. It shouldn't be that you're doing it for the food, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna complete this. I'm gonna get myself a little bit of a treat because I did it. And then sometimes that is motivating for some people. It's not like you want to do that all the time, and you definitely don't want to be doing workouts all the time so you can have a treat. And that shouldn't be the reason you're doing them. But I think little things like that, I think, can help you get through and do.
So a lot of the conversation that we've had up till now is like this one segment was finding motivation when you know there's going to be severe discomfort or something that you just don't want to do. The next piece that I'm kind of curious on and that I want to bring up is when to find motivation when you feel like you have a lot of time ahead of you. So for instance, right now we're in the month of November. And
November.
so, if you're saying that, okay, I've scheduled a June race, I have a lot of time.
I have like my situation, I have 3 months
Yeah. So, how do you
until I start
find
training.
that motivation either to start laying the groundwork now which is super important. And we've talked about before on previous episodes of like laying that foundation so that when it comes time to train, you're able to train in a way that you need to train in order to perform. But now is the time where that motivation is a little bit harder to find because you feel like you have so much time left. You're just like, well, I've got, 6 months before this race happens. I've got plenty of time. So if I miss a week and now all of a sudden you're rolling into Thanksgiving, oh, it's Thanksgiving. So let me just wait until December. And then you roll into December. It's like, oh, well, it's December. Now I've got parties and Christmas is coming up and New Year's. So now all of a sudden it's January 1st and you've lost 2 months of time that you could have had to lay a better foundation. And now you've got 5 months to train for something that may have needed 7 months to prepare for it. So how do you what are some ways that you think that we can find motivation when we feel like the race that we're trying to plan for is so far out in front of us?
Right. I do think it's helpful to, like, in my case, I've been thinking about whether I wanted to do grandma since I probably, um, since like the end of my, my last race. Not quite that, because I've wanted to do it for a while, but it was like, okay, what am I going to do next year? Like, when's my next marathon? Well, it won't be until next year. Which ones do I want to do? Okay, I kind of want to do grandma's. Okay, when does it open? Because I knew that it would sell out quickly, right? So I had to be kind of prepared. What day? I put it on my calendar. This is the day that grandma's opens. I got to think about, do I really want to do this? Well, now it's on my calendar, like I've committed. I think though, for some people, there isn't always that, like they're still kind of waffling around about what type of race they want to do at this time of year. Maybe they haven't signed up yet. I think that though can be kind of a little bit dangerous because you don't know. You haven't actually committed. And for me, it's like I kind of need to commit like a bit ahead of time. So I have it on my calendar because now I'm thinking to myself, I I wanna do well in this marathon, and if I don't do things now to help myself get there, like strength training and continuing with some of my running, like, I'm gonna be starting at square 0, and all of these times, like, I'm looking ahead at my training plan, and I'm like, I've got percentages of different things I'm trying to achieve. There's no way I'm gonna be able to train at that, certain percentage of my marathon pace if I just take the next 2 months or whatever off. Like, I'm gonna be literally just having to somehow build up my fitness again, and I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to do that. So I've already committed. I know that it's in my head.
Yeah.
And so that motivates me a lot because I'm like, I don't wanna lose my fitness, and I wanna actually gain strength. And because, that doesn't mean I'm training 80 the mileage I'm gonna be doing because it's now ramped back to like half the mileage, maybe about 40 miles a week. And then I'm allowing myself a couple weeks around Christmas to really just have very little like pressure. So like the week of Christmas, I might run only 20. So I'm kind of building in some of that, like knowing ahead, like the holiday stuff is going to be a little bit harder, but I'm still going to put in workouts. So yeah, I'm not going to force myself to do like these really high volume weeks. That's coming. I know that's coming. I'm giving myself a little bit of break, but I'm still strategically putting in some runs and definitely the strength training. And I think so that gives it a little break without totally taking the time off. So knowing that even if you don't have a race on the calendar, but you want to do something, I think just like that fear of losing fitness should be very scary for most people because it's very hard. Some people can kind of build back up quickly if you're young, but I think especially people who are in their 40s and 50s matters. Like it's the consistency that's the key. And unfortunately, at this age, I know I'm very well aware that if I give up or have to like take off time, the building back of that fitness is going to be harder, like much harder. Like I'm on a roll now and I do not want to let that go. Like I do not want to let this roll go. I'm speedier than I was. Like so I'm like motivated, right? Because I did that 5K and I'm like, wow, I'm even speedier than I thought I was. So, and I think I could become even faster. And so it's just like, I don't want to give that up. And if I take too much time off or get too lazy with it, I'm going to lose that. And it's going to take a lot to build that back. So I think that's
Yeah.
for me, like, I think people need to be thinking about that and not maybe motivate you to continue something, some form of training, maybe little bits of fartlek and strength training for sure to build up like that injury resistance or resilience from injury. I think most people should be thinking about that. This isn't the time you take time off and you're stepping backwards. I mean, a significant amount of time, not like just 2 weeks, but if you take like 2 months off because you have all these excuses, this is the reality of it. You have to accept that you're going to lose fitness and it's going to take a lot longer to build up. So if you've got like a June race, like this is not the time to be taking time off. Like I'm going to be hard. I think that needs to be said. Like that's the motivation for me. And that should be the motivation for people is this is what's happening. I think signing up for something in the spring, whether it be like a half marathon or something, but signing up for that now, like looking ahead and being like, what's happening in the spring? I'm not sure. I want to do a big race next year. I'm not sure yet what it's going to be. I'll decide in January, but I think looking at it now and signing up for something in the spring is probably a really good thing to consider doing. So you have something on the calendar. I think what happens when we don't have anything on the calendar is it's like, oh, well, I don't have it, then there's a lot less of that pressure to like train. You're like, I'm not sure what
Yeah.
I'm going to do. Everything's up in the air. I don't know. Okay, well, then that is going to be hard when you have to wake up and go train. It's easier. Well, I don't really have anything on the calendar. It's easier to be like, I'm just going to sleep in and not do, not do the workout today because I have tomorrow, right? There's always tomorrow. I don't have anything on the calendar.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden tomorrow, and then a week goes by, 2 weeks, and all of a sudden it's like a month and you've barely done anything and you're losing fitness rapidly at this point. I think that's my suggestion is even if you don't have the big race signed up for yet, sign up for something. Most of us are triathletes or runners, so there's lots of half marathons generally in the spring where most people are, some from March, April. Sign up for something now. So it's on your calendar. And then,
Or at least
make that
or at
big
least sign
race
up for
decision.
it mentally. Like
Well,
commit
I
to
think
it. It's
some
like,
people need like, yeah,
yeah.
I do that. I can do that totally. I'll put it on my calendar, like my turkey trot I'm supposed to do. I haven't signed up for it. Yeah, I can do that because I know I'm going to do it. But some people like literally need to have it, like the
Yeah.
money invested in it to be able to do it. I mean, I've also heard people, just one thing to mention, depending on how you motivate, like I've heard people like give their loved one or something like, or somebody like $1,000 and be like, if I don't complete this, you get to keep this money. Like some people need external motivation like that. And, whatever it is that you need to do to
Yeah.
kind of maybe externally motivate yourself. Like if that's like, okay, here's $1,000. Like if I don't complete this, somebody else gets it or somebody you don't like gets it or a charity you don't believe in. I don't know. Like just like maybe
Yeah.
there's more deeper motivational ways to do it if you really struggle. But I think the big one is like maybe the financial, even if it's only like $75 for a race, I think putting in that money, so, signing up.
Yeah, so I still struggle a little bit with still trying to find ways to encourage or motivate when the race that we have signed up for is so far ahead because I think that I'm such a firm believer in laying a more solid foundation and a lot of that stuff is taken for granted and it's just like, oh, well, when the time comes that I need to train, I'll be ready. I'll be ready. And if you've gotten to the point where you're not really seeing change year over year and you're not seeing progress and growth, then I would question then, well, then what are you doing before training begins? And I get it. It's a really hard and not very intuitive mindset that I would argue that if you're following, let's say, a 10-week plan for a particular race, it's not necessarily just what you did during those 10 weeks. It's what did you do the 6 weeks before the 10 weeks started? And I work hard to try and develop that mindset in myself, and I try hard to instill that into the minds of my athletes. It's that, yeah, this is when the training starts. But training doesn't start then. It's just we become more specific then. Training is a journey, so it's cumulative, so it's a process. So it has no time. There's no time dimension in it. It's really important what you do before the training even begins. And that statement of we need to train now in such a way that allows us to train the way that we want to train when we need to train. So laying that solid foundation is really important because if you get to the point where you may have cracks in that foundation and then you're like, oh, well, my training plan has started and now you're 4 weeks into our training plan and we found ways to exacerbate those cracks and find those cracks easily. Now all of a sudden, well, now we don't have a 10-week plan. We only have an 8-week plan because we have to lose a little bit of time because we found some cracks in the foundation. And so we can't train like we want to or that we felt like we needed to because of those holes. So if you're saying that, hey, I've got 3 months before my race, and I'll train, I have this set expectation on how I'm going to train those 3 months. I would say that there's probably a pretty solid chance if you're not doing stuff before that, you really don't have 3 months. You have something less than 3 months, because there are going to be things that are going to be setbacks. There's going to be stuff that you have to adjust your plan accordingly. And so counting on those 3 months is not a given. You're not given those 3 months. You've allocated 3 months, but you're not guaranteed those 3 months, and you're not given those 3 months. So keeping that mindset is that, hey, I need to do something on a consistent basis and keep this ball rolling, because momentum is a hard thing to stop. And
Mhm.
I've seen it. I've lived it. And, if you get to the point where
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, I've got solid momentum, I'm making progress, and then all of a sudden something happens and that momentum slows a little bit, you'd be surprised on how quickly that momentum can unravel. And when the momentum unravels, the motivation subsides as well. And then you find yourself starting at square zero in terms of fitness and motivation.
That's how I feel like. I feel like part of it is just that if I don't keep doing something, I'm going to like that. Yeah, the momentum will sort of unravel, and then it's so much harder. It'll be so much harder come February for me to get going again. So if I'm already kind of in motion, all I have to do is just sort of slowly build on it and do a little bit more. And by then I'll be mentally kind of ready for it because I've been thinking about it for 3 months. They're not thinking of like not like I'm dwelling on it, but just like I know it's coming and I'm kind of embracing doing a little bit less, but I'm still doing stuff, and I'm still engaging in training. But I think that's true, like too, because I have an 18-week plan, but I fully am aware that like there'll probably be points in that because it is the spring still and there's still illnesses going around. Like I'm fully aware that there's probably going to be at least 1 week, if not maybe two, where I'm going to have to make an adjustment to my training plan, if not like take time off because of illness or something. And so if I'm going into that already like pretty fit, I can take those hits, in my training plan,
Yeah.
and maybe and then those weeks I have to adjust or something. But if somebody isn't, like you're saying, doesn't going into that with the best fitness, like they don't really have a lot of room to budge in that because every week that you lose, you're losing, or you're kind of gonna not have that week to train. And when you don't kind of come into it already pretty fit and ready to go, and you're trying to build up fitness while you're in a training plan, you get sick and you're gonna have to adjust your goals
Yeah.
usually. But for me, I'm like, I don't want to adjust my goals. So I'm going into it, I'm already pretty fit. And then that way when those things happen, hopefully I can roll with it and just sort of, okay, next week I'll get back to it. But I'm not, it's not totally offsetting me. I have some margin for error. In other words, like I have some margin for those weeks to happen, and then I'm not so stressed out about it either. I think that, people kind of go into a training plan and they forget that little niggles, injury, like minor injuries that have set you back, or illnesses like colds and flus and all that, which is still going around in the spring, is still going to probably happen. What are you going to do when you have an 18-week plan and now it's only 16 weeks and you weren't prepared? So I think, yeah, I kind of am right there with you.
Just kind of been a little bit more of kind of like a coach's corner kind of focus, where we've talked about some stuff in our own experiences and maybe stuff that we work with, with our athletes. So this has been episode 44 on
Mhm.
everything motivation, all the things that kind of like caveats and the little offshoots that have stemmed from it.
And
So
one thing before we go,
yeah,
like the
go for it.
comfort
Yep.
crisis, you were talking about that, like we have a tendency as humans to wanna be comfortable all the time. If you wanna read a book that's kinda talks about that, I can't remember who the author is, but it's called, The Comfort Crisis, and he talks about that tendency to wanna, be comfortable and what happens when we go outside of comfort, and what that actually brings us in terms of benefits to get a little bit outside of our comfort zone and push ourselves a little bit, and what actually that can bring a lot of positive things for us when we're always comfortable. I think
Yeah.
that's where we want to be, but it's not really great for growth and being the best versions of ourselves. So might be worth
Yeah,
a
so
listen to if
we'll
you're
we'll find we'll find who the author was, and then we'll put
Yeah,
that
I'll
in the show
post
notes.
it. I'll try to put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that we document that, because that definitely sounds like a book that I would like to check out. Because I have found that over the years I have sought comfort and I've sabotaged my own growth and progress because I didn't want to work as hard as I should have, and I just wanted to check the box and feel good after my run, and just not be uncomfortable and say, oh well, that was an easy. I was able to maintain pace, but it was a pace that I should not have had to maintain. I should have been pushing it a little bit more. So, but
Yeah.
thanks for that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll put it. Yeah, we'll put it. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes. Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this thing. So it's episode 44, all on motivation. And thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. Again, if you're enjoying the content and the discussions that we have, leave us a review and leave us a comment on whatever platform that you're listening to. Thank you guys again for checking us out. And that's a wrap. All right.
That's a wrap.
Thank you, Katie. I'll
Nice
talk to
to
you
see
later.
you. Yeah. Bye.
All right, bye. Listening to the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Feel free to leave us up to a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify, because leaving a review really helps others like you find us. Visit the podcast website for other episodes of the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast at enduranceathletejourney.buzzsprout.com. Have questions or comments about the podcast? Send Coach Justin and Katie an email at theenduranceathletejourney@gmail.com. For all things coaching, visit Coach Katie at fuel2run.com and Coach Justin at tabularasaracing.com. Again, thank you for listening to the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast, and remember to find joy in the journey.